Namaste everyone. Ātman-Gurubhyo Namaha, Paramagurubhyo Namaha, Sarvagurubhyo Namaha, Shri Kṛṣṇa Parabrahmane Namaha, Shri Lakshmi Simha Parabrahmane Namaha, Shri Lakshmi Ayavadana Parabrahmane Namaha, Sarvam Shri Kṛṣṇārpanastu. So we're coming to a important lecture, I should say, because it gives you an overview of how we understand experience and scripture together. So before I go further, I want to come to the quiz I asked. What is the object of meditation in the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gītā for an aspirant, according to Rāmānujācārya? I got, so any, just wanted to wake you up a little bit, discuss it. So what do you think is the object of meditation?
Jīvātman.
Jīvātman. Okay, even Rāmānujam ji says is Jīvātman, that is Ātman. Any other, any other view? No other view. Okay. Do you know where in the Bhagavad Gītā any object of meditation is sort of indicated for the very first time? So in the Bhagavad Gītā, you have first 6 chapters, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In that, which chapter there is an introduction of the subject of, oh, you meditate on some particular object. Where is it? Do you know? Which chapter? So meditation is sort of indicated in a particular chapter. What chapter is that?
Is it dhyayate vishayo pumsaha?
Okay, that is okay. That is 2nd chapter. That not that particular verse, but the verse is Yukta Asita matparaḥ.
Oh, yes.
The 2nd chapter only, and the verse is Yukta Asita matparaḥ. Let me show you that particular thing because we should discuss that. Hold on a second. I made a note for it, and I'm just going to show that to you before we start our class. So here it is. Where is it? Okay. You can see my screen, I think. I'm going to put it on slideshow mode. Okay. Okay, this is the chapter 2. I'm going to give you the verse number because I didn't really write it down here. Verse number, some 50s it is. Tāni sarvāni samyamya yukta asita matparaḥ vashe hi yasya indriyāni tasya prajñā pratishtita. That is chapter 261. So in that, Tāni sarvāni samyamya yukta asita matparaḥ is there, right? The word matparaḥ, according to Rāmānujācārya, it says that is a subhashraya bhuta. So Kṛṣṇa is an object. It's very important to keep me in mind. Why would you keep me in mind? Because the person has got into a problem. Without controlling the senses, the person is not able to see Ātman. And without seeing Ātman, he is not able to control his senses. So there is a cyclic dependency problem an aspirant gets into. Right? This happens. First of all, he wants to control his mind and senses. But the saṁskāras are there within, constantly pumping him, distracting his mind, giving new ideas. So the person cannot focus on Ātman. Jīvātman.
One more
So,
verse. Manmana bhava machitto bhava.
that is later. That is Manmana Bhava Mad Bhakta Madhya Ajimam Namaskuru. That comes in 9th chapter and the 18th chapters. Okay, very beginning, first time Krishna asks Arjuna to keep something in mind. What is that
In
something?
one more verse. Maya sakta manaha. One
Yeah,
more
there
verse
are
is there.
several verses. There are many verses in Bhagavad Gītā where Krishna asks Arjuna to keep either himself in mind or Atma in mind or something like that. But the very first time Krishna suggests to Arjuna is when Krishna himself poses a problem saying that control of indriyas is very difficult for human beings. Control of mind is very difficult. So how would you control? First of all, he puts a problem saying that controlling indriyas requires that person to see Atman. Because only when that person sees Atman directly, that is his own self, Jīvātman. Because Jīvātman is so powerful and wonderful. There is nothing, no experience in this world which can equal the experience of Jīvātman. So once he experiences Jīvātman, his mind and senses will not go after any physical objects or anything around him. So the mind and senses will become controlled. So, but without controlling the mind and senses, how would that person realize Jīvātman? It's not possible. So that aspirant requires a assistance. Where does the assistance come from? Krishna himself. That is why they say yukta asita matparaḥ. So thing is, there is some question or a comment here. I don't know what it is. Kenopanishad lecture 36, it says. I don't know what it is. Okay. Here. So yukta asita matparaḥ means focus your mind, and then yukta asita madvishaye, that is, if you keep Krishna in mind, your impurities will go away. And the mind, when the impurities in the mind, it includes upaya virodhi karma. That means the karmas which are obstructing obstructing a person to take up a upaya or a path towards a spiritual progress. So only when the mind becomes pure, attachments go away, and mind and indriyas will come to control. Only when the mind and indriyas come to control, that person would be able to see Jīvātman. Tataha vashya indriyam manaha atmadarshanaya prabhavati. Only then the person will have an idea to meditate on Atman and eventually attain Atma Sakshatkara, Atma Darshanaya. So just Jīvātma is the focus of the first 6 chapters, no doubt. But the help is given by keeping Krishna in mind. So remembering Krishna in mind. So when will that switch occur? Initially, a person has to keep Krishna in mind and start meditation. Only when the impurities in the mind and indriyas and everything are burnt, then only the person will be able to even focus on Jīvātma. Otherwise, Jīvātma Sakshatkara, Jīvātma Avalokana, anything is not possible. And it is aptly supported in the Vishnu Purana, Yatha Agniruddhata Shikaha, Kaksham Dahati Sanilaha, Tata Chitta Sthito Vishnu Yoginam Sarvakil Visham. Like how bales and bales of cotton are burnt by just a strike of a match, and the fire envelops all the cotton and burn it away. Similarly, just by keeping Vishnu in the mind, all impurities are destroyed. See, here in this portion of the yoga, it is very beginning level. In that beginning level, Vishnu is also not known. How would somebody know how Vishnu looks like? What is the nature? So he has to study some Shastras, Vishnu Purana, Kṛṣṇa, Bhagavad Gītā basics and understand that, oh, Krishna is like this, Vishnu is like this. And you can even have a form, and it's easy for anyone to meditate on a form. And the Vishnu Sahasranama says, keep Vishnu in mind, and that Vishnu is in this form. Sashankachakram Sakirita Kundalam Sapita Vastram Sarasiruhekshanam. So that verse, and next set of verses says, oh, Vishnu has got Shankha and Chakra in his hands. He's forearmed, and things like that. And he's wonderful, beautiful looking. And that is only a mental concept, right? But the concept is validated by hard work. What kind of hard work? The doubts are all cleared. Nyaya, Tarka, and many other shastras like Mimamsa, Sankhya, Yoga, all these shastras help you to clarify and have the concept very clear in your mind that, look, I'm not going to run away from this process. I am very interested to find the Jīvātman at this point. Why Jīvātman? Because a person cannot see Vishnu directly. Unless even Vivekananda says, unless you know yourself, you will never be able to find or know God. This is the fundamental principle of the Ramanuja Bhashya. He says the first six chapters cannot be directly understood as knowing Brahman directly. The other Ācāryas sort of downplay it. Rāmānujācārya upholds it, saying that it is impossible for you to know. Even, look at the way our consciousness works. There are the kośas around us, right? The kośas are annamaya kośa, manomaya kośa, pranamaya kośa, vijñānamaya kośa, ānandamaya kośa. So the kośas start with annamaya kośa, matter, food, all these things are annamaya. Adyate means it's eaten, experienced. It's external world. After that, it is manomaya kośa. Then it's internal. When you go a little bit internal, you see that is the mind. If you go even further, that is vijñāna. Then it comes prana. Because who keeps mind working? The mind is working because of prana is making sure. If prana leaves, everybody leaves the body. The person becomes dead. So prana is holding everything together. So prana is very important. And one needs to know prana. Only beyond the prana is vijñāna. Vijñāna is Jīvātman. So Jīvātman. So unless you see Jīvātman, you cannot see Anandamaya Kosha. Where is Kṛṣṇa? Where is Kṛṣṇa? Where is Vishnu? Oh no, you go to the temple, you find. That is good for an initial understanding, initial conception of Mahavishnu, conception of Kṛṣṇa. Then you may wonder, oh, Alvars spent all their time going to temples, hundreds of them, and realizing that Mahavishnu and Srimad Narayana are there in all these temples. And in fact, Alvar said, long time back, there was a rishi, and that rishi realized that Paramātman in this particular temple here. And so many of these Divya Deshams are actually originally realized by the rishis. For example, Shaligotra Maharshi realized Paramātman in the Adishesha pose in Tiruvallur. Tiruvallur Veeraraghava was realized by Shaligotra Maharshi. Similarly, there are so many rishis who realized. Then these Alvars afterwards rediscovered that those wonderful Archamurtis where the earlier rishis had already realized Paramātman, and they started praying to them. But how can a normal person also directly visualize an Archamurti? Slowly, if you have Archana, doing Archana, going to temples, slowly the person will realize later. But the Alvars could directly realize the divine presence everywhere, and they directly started interacting with God directly. That is not possible for a beginner. The beginner will think, even the famous, shloka or the verse from Guru Nanak says, I went to so many temples. What did I see? All I saw was stones and water, metal and water, the water being thrown and poured onto the stones. Nothing more than that. So the Ananda, inner Ananda, is not directly realized initially, but it will take some time. For the right person with the right attitude and the right saṁskāras and purity of mind, that person can realize God in temples. So initially, a person has to keep Kṛṣṇa in mind with some form, whoever, it could be a photo, it could be anything, it could be in some form. And then slowly, then the mind will become under control. Then that person directly cannot realize Kṛṣṇa and they has to realize only Jīvātman. So they have to go look for the Ātma-Avalokana, Ātma-Sākṣātkara, Ātma-Anubhuti, Ātma-Sākṣātkara, and everything like that. And that happens over the first 6 chapters. So in the first 6 chapters, the Dhyaya Vastu, or the object of meditation, becomes Jīvātma eventually, but it starts with Kṛṣṇa only to win over the problems of mind control and sense control. Is this clear? Jīvātma is right. Jīvātma is the focus, but you cannot directly focus on Jīvātma, so you have to start with Kṛṣṇa, then come back to Jīvātma, because you will never know Kṛṣṇa unless you know Jīvātma, because once you penetrate the vijñānamaya kośa, then only you can see annamaya kośa, who is Kṛṣṇa. Agreed? Understood? Any questions on this?
Comment is, this is a natural process, right?
Yes.
It is not that I want to first realize Jīvātma, then Paramātma. It cannot be like that. It should be a natural process.
See, it's a natural process. What happens is there is also constraints, right? The kośas are arranged in that way. God, made it happen. The natural process is from matter to something beyond matter, right? See, initially what happens, natural process is I experience the external world. That is natural. Then I'm unhappy in the world. I'm always having some kind of, despair, hopelessness, incompleteness, sorrow in the external world. So you try to look for happiness, you go inside. One level inside would be Jīvātman. Because who are you first? Why am I different from the body and mind and intellect and external world? So then you go further and say, Ātmāpya-nīśaha sukha-dukkha hetoho, the Shvetashvatara says. Why are you not the boss? Why can't you stop with yourself? Because you got stuck into this matter. You got stuck in matter. You are going through the karma, the cycles of births and deaths due to karma. And so you are Anisha. You are not the Lord. You are not the boss. You are not the controller. Sukha dukkha hetoho, because you are experiencing pleasure and pain. Then you see Brahman is the one to go after. That is why the Brahma Sutra start with Athato Brahma Jignasa. I have to know Brahman, because that is the origin of everything. That will maintain everything. Everyone will go and join Brahman. So the thing is, yes, it goes through a natural process. But automatically, Jīvātma is the one, one stop right away. The other ācāryas devalue or de-emphasize this process a little bit. Jīvātma is de-emphasized. The reason is they want to say that, okay, I cannot, because I am not the boss, I have to only rely on Kṛṣṇa and let me keep Kṛṣṇa completely in mind. What Rāmānujācārya argues is that is not possible in reality. That's where the difference is. Okay, I don't want to go too much into this. Let's get to the class information today, because there's a lot to cover. Unfortunately, there are more than 30-40 slides to cover. And I just wanted to introduce this quiz to make you thinking, make your mind work. I hope this quiz was of some use. I'll go back to this is the 49th slide today. So there are a lot of slides. Let me get back to where we started. I will quickly finish. There are some very important slides in this lecture. We cover some topics which are quite important. So let's focus on this quickly and get to some level, and I'll stop somewhere reasonably. It's already 7:30. Let's say we'll try another 30-40 minutes initially before we stop for any questions. So focus on this, and you will understand why this is important. This is where we were ended. We said there is darshanam parabhakti syate. Yesterday we talked about parabhakti, a bhakti which is pure, beyond the senses, beyond attachments, beyond emotion, beyond the lower level reason. That is bhakti, and that is superior. And what will the superior bhakti get? Darshanam parabhakti syat. You will get the vision of the Lord, vision of Kṛṣṇa. That is darshana. So what was a concept before as just, okay, Sashanka Chakram, Sakirita Kundalam, this was a concept of Kṛṣṇa. Then what happened? That becomes slowly into Jīvātma realization. Afterwards, you understood that Jīvātma is not the Lord. Somebody is controlling the Lord, the Jīvātma from within. And Yomam Pashyati Sarvatra, Sarvam Chamai Pashyati, all these verses in the 6th chapter explain that there is no yogi. Yoginamapi sarvesham madgatena antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yuktatamu mataha. So the yogi who focuses on Kṛṣṇa is the highest level of yogi. So knowing that, he will know who this Kṛṣṇa is. 7th chapter is about knowledge of Kṛṣṇa. 8th chapter is about different paths towards spiritual perfection, Kaivalya, Aishwarya, and Paramātma upasakas. And the 9th chapter is about Rajavidya, Rajaguhya. That is what is Parabhakti here. What is this Parabhakti? Darshana. You directly see Kṛṣṇa. And it is not an illusion or a false, what do you call, vision. Due to fear, Maricha saw Rama everywhere because he was afraid that Rama is going to kill him. But that was fear and imagination. And that is not what we're talking about here. In the Shandilya Vidya, we talked about Sarvam Khal Vidam Brahma. Here it is pure intellectual side where intelligence is purified, mind is purified, the vision of Atman, the knowledge of Atman, which is the form of Dharmabhūta-jñāna in the Vishishtadvaita philosophy, understands everything and says everything here is only Brahman. Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma. That's the vision. And that is the true darshana. Now we come back to how do we learn? We know that reason is the first thing we know. And it leads only to indirect knowledge, intellectual understanding, and not direct. But intuition offers direct insight, inner knowing. So the intuition could be also scientific, right? So this is the way human beings understand, either through reasoning or intuition. That's the only thing we have right now. So what is this intuition? Direct perception of by an individual using the mind in association with intellect and knowledge. So there's some mistake here. Intelligence is used, mind is used, but mind is subdued, and you get the knowledge. So intuition, the intellect is not operating, and you get intuition is a sudden knowing of something. For example, a parent might feel that a child is in danger, or someone may feel a sense of negative vibe in a room. You enter the room and suddenly you look at the faces of so many people, and suddenly you get a feeling that they are not good people. They are not here to support you. They are all angry at you, or they are going to do something wrong to you. So these are all intuitions where the intelligence, reasoning, and other thing will not work properly. But you know, looking at so many things, automatically there's a flash. But here, We are not interested in the ordinary intuition. We are interested in the intuition of the self, Ātman-Brahman. So, you need, why would you, what do you call, both are required. That reasoning and intuition are required. Reasoning will help you to weed out, to filter out what is not important to you. Like most of us will spend all their lives looking for food, water, shelter, and entertainment. That's very basic. But they do not go after directly this ever blissful Paramātman. So you need tuition or reason to weed out, saying that, am I doing the right thing? This is not the right path. Life is very short. Within this short time, what is the best? Best we need to understand. This the great sage Yajnavalkya says, "Ayam tu paramo dharmaha yad yogena atmadarshanam." He says, the highest duty and the highest goal and the highest path a human being can take is yoga. Ayam tu paramo dharmaha. The parama dharma is yoga. Yad yogena atmadarshanam. Using what you can see Atman here. Yajnavalkya refers to Atma as Paramātman also. Everything, the highest is Paramātman anyway. And in the Upanishad terminology, Atman usually refers to Paramātman only. In Gītā, many times the Atmapada is used to denote Jīvātman. Sometimes Atmapada is used to denote mind also. This is very clear. That is why Atmapada, the word Atma term is very difficult to understand. One has to master the context before you understand what that is. So the tuition and intuition are all both, they should coexist. I think you have to mute yourself. There's somebody talking. Okay. Now, transition from tuition to intuition, right? You go inward. From outside, you go inward. So the more and more your reasoning is working, it stimulates you to go inside. And the intuition will start becoming powerful. Usually what happens when somebody when the person finds that the rest of the universe and experiences in the universe are not so happiness giving, the person automatically goes inside. Then usual object is either Jīvātman or Paramātman. And once that person focuses on any object, it could be even a photo or any kind of object in front of you, or any kind of vigraha, or even a light or a candle light or anything like that, the knower and known becomes one. That means in the process of focusing in dhyana, the person who is knowing, he becomes the object itself. What does it mean? So usually what happens, many people who do a lot of meditation, the yogis generally see, if they keep even, okay, I'm keeping Paramatma in mind. And that is in whatever form they do. There's 100,000 or 125,000 methods to meditate. Shiva says in Yoga to Parvati. So there's not one path. Not like 5 Vedantas, Advaita, Advaita, Vishtadvaita, Shuddhadvaita, and all, not 5 or 6. 125,000 methods to meditate. So yoga is complex. Whatever the yoga person uses, it doesn't matter how. Usually what happens is, when an object of meditation is kept in mind, the person becomes one with the object. Then, what is the philosophy of this becoming one? That we need to understand. Descent from intuition to reason. But a person cannot meditate 24 hours a day. Not ordinary people, maybe advanced yogis can. Most people will come down, will descend from the intuitive knowledge within, where the person is one with the object of knowledge, to ordinary reason, ordinary life, the person will talk and speak like us, and you eat and sleep and do many things like us. So from the peak of intuition, that is unity of the knower and the known, the mind returns to reason. And the reason now should interpret the value of the experience of oneness. What was the oneness? If it was an absolute oneness, that means if the object was perfectly, identically same as the knower, then what happens is that person cannot return back to ordinary life. Obviously, anybody who returns back to the ordinary life after doing meditation has not become the object completely. It is like becoming the object, almost like becoming the object. It is not full, identical, becoming one. The merger is not complete. That we need to understand. And that is only when you use reason to analyze your own experience properly, then a philosophy can be derived. So it's not true that you became 100% one with the object. There's something different. So let us try to understand this. Self in meditation, that is, self is me, I, right? And in meditation, what happens? That I directly perceives itself. It is a perceiving self. That means I am always aware of myself, but it is absorbed into the ideal, which is the object of knowledge, which is usually the Paramātman. So it just gets absorbed into Paramātman while in meditation. But it is apperceiving. That means it is perceiving itself. This state is known as Samādhi, where the intellect is silent, mind is silent, because intellect does not have anything to grasp or analyze. Mind grasps, intellect analyzes. Intelligence needs difference. You cannot do anything with intellect when there is only one experience. Intellect doesn't know what to do. Mind also grasps, and there's only one thing, it just forgets because mind doesn't work. This is described as non-triunity, commonly known as non-duality. So non-triunity is same as non-duality. Many yogis, when they go to yoga, they can say, oh, I went to Samādhi, I didn't know anything, I was experiencing only one. And they come back. And there they say there was no separate subject, object, or even the process of knowing. Nothing really happened. It was one experience. And I came back. The intellect there was nothing for the intellect to see. It becomes inoperative, but it still exists in potential. That means intelligence is still there, intellect is still there, mind is still there, but it is inoperative. So the subject-object knowing oneness is only oneness in anubhava. The experience inside Samādhi is of oneness, but it is not absolute. If it was an absolute merger, then the person cannot come back to ordinary life. Because the moment the person comes back, the intellect is operating, he is talking philosophy, talking politics, talking, war is going on and everything like that. He's in the ordinary state, right? So the self persists, self is there. But the self is inoperative. That same thing happens in sleep, right? When the person goes into sleep, they didn't know anything. But when you get back, you remember what happened yesterday, what happened, you get back to the same old problems. Non-triunity or non-duality in Samādhi, there is no difference between subject-object and the subject-object, which is usually Ātman-Brahman, and the process of knowing. To be clear, the self has not vanished. The intellect has not ceased to exist. It has only transcended our ordinary experience. The self simply abides in a higher non-dual awareness. Intellect needs difference to analyze, so intellect does not operate at that time. This we have covered. So the explanation of identity with God in Samādhi, this needs to be explained. The experience of becoming one with God, Samādhi, isn't self-explanatory. Because once a person goes into Samadhi, the person may be experiencing, depending on what level of Samadhi the person has got into, right? He cannot even perceive or explain what has happened. So oneness here with the object is like becoming the actor while watching a movie. Suppose somebody is intently watching a movie and maybe the actor is in a very scary situation. The person is scared, or the person is in despair, or the actor has lost a loved one and is in deep sorrow. What happens to a observer? The observer becomes the actor and starts crying when the actor cries. When the actor gets scared, the observer gets scared. He becomes one with the object because he is so attentively watching. Unfortunately, I should have given you an example of a meditator becoming one with meditation, the object of meditation. But the movies are the best places for it when everybody meditates properly. So I've given a movie example here. To truly understand the philosophy behind it, we must reflect on it after experience, not just during. So during Samadhi, you cannot think because you're already attained a calmness in mind, no activity, but focus on the object. So you cannot analyze there. So when you come back and say, oh, I was one with Brahman and all those things, that is a Samadhi level speech. The speech refers to the experience level. But when you come back, that's not true anymore. You have to reflect, think. No. I was not operating. Now I'm operating. The I is operating now. So I did not die there. I came back. So it was never dead. But it was in the lowest level of activity. Return from Samadhi is important. Coming back from Samadhi, so now analyze, why do people come back from Samadhi? If Samadhi was so perfect and wonderful and beautiful and blissful and all those things, why come back? Stay there. So we have to analyze, why are people coming back? When you come back, you can observe and express what happened. This return is not a failure. It's a part of the process of understanding. So return from Samadhi is also, we need to understand what is happening. Okay? When you come back, the mind which was calm and quiet in Samadhi now can offer insights like a helpful witness. He was watching, mind was watching, intellect was there, but not operating. So when mind comes back, we must listen to what the mind brings back from that experience, rather than force it to stay silent or speak only in the language of Samadhi. If the mind starts speaking only in the language of Samadhi, then nothing can be understood. Everything is, one, I was okay, I was peaceful, whatever it is. True philosophy requires interpretation. A philosophy of Samadhi means reflecting on the experience using reason and language. Philosophy is reason and language. There is no philosophy in experience. If we insist that Samadhi must only be understood through the lens of silence or pure experience, then it is not philosophy. It is mysticism without explanation. Mysticism is some yogic experience. Anybody can claim. Even Annamaya says that is yogic experience. I can claim, I also experience. Am I same as Annamaya? Is my experience comparable to Annamaya? But mysticism, if I don't explain, that's what happens. So, in modern terms, what are we saying here? Experiencing unity with God is profound, but understanding it comes after, when the mind returns and reflects. That reflection is essential for turning mystical experience into living philosophy. That's what we are saying. Now, there are two ways to understand why the self returns from Samadhi. From the Samadhi, we should not come back. Why are we coming back? Or why, I'm not talking about we, talking about good yogis, whatever they are. So return out of incompleteness or exhaustion. The person cannot focus anymore. The mind cannot deal with the meditation anymore. The body has problems. The body, maybe the guy gets hungry, or the person gets sleepy, or whatever, exhaustion. Then the self cannot remain in the absolute non-dual state of object-subject becoming one. This returning is a falling back due to limitation or fatigue of a person. In this view, the devotion to God becomes a means of self-effort to raise again to the absolute. So the thing is, in this, if that person comes back like this, what happens? The very fact that the person started meditating was self-effort. That means, oh, I'm going to meditate. I'm going to sit down. This time I'm not going to give up my meditation. I will focus properly. I will not be like yesterday when my mind was thinking about movies and no, there was no meditation. I wasted an hour, didn't even watch the movie directly, but I thought about the movie while doing, hey, I will do meditation properly. So there's a self-effort, determination, which makes you think, oh, I'm going to work on it. And this time I will not let my mind go astray. But the motivation is self-interest in spiritual progress. Why am I doing this? I want to increase and become better spiritually. So this is the beginner's problem. Arurukshor muner yogam karma karanamuchyate yoga rudhasya tasyaiva shamah karanamuchyate. The 6th chapter, Arurukshoho, when you are beginning, Arurukshoho munehi yogam karma karanamuchyate. You need karma at that time. Different kind of activities, purification activities, whatever karmas, prescribed activities, and also conscious effort in focusing the mind. Yogarudasya tasyaiva shamah karanamuchyate. Thing is, when the person is already a yogarudha, is already established in yoga, all he has is peace of mind. Shamaha. Mind is under control. So the thing is, so in the initial phase, return comes back from even 5 minutes of meditation or 20 minutes of meditation because of exhaustion. Okay, now let's go further. Return as eternal play. Oh, here it is different. One could fail in yoga, not from the state of samadhi when the person is directly realizing God himself. But the person has to come back forcibly. Why? It is God's eternal play, Līlā. So it is not because of fatigue. It is because God doesn't want that person to immediately experience. So he makes that person fail. It's God's will. It's the play of God. This happens in the experience of Nammalvar so many times. People who can study Bhagavad Gītā, the lucky ones who can understand Tamil, or the not so lucky ones who can understand the translation of Tamil into other languages, they can see this happening in the life of Nammalvar often, where the person, Nammalvar, sees God, experiences God, but suddenly God runs away, and then Nammalvar is in deep sorrow, unable to see Lord at all. But sometimes again the God appears and then gives a second vision for Nammalvar. Similarly, it's a joyful re-engagement with God, not separation from him. So the thing is, there is a re-engagement, there is no separation. This happens in the play during Samādhi. So here the devotion here is complete, natural and spontaneous. There is no effort. So the effort is not there. The activity starts from the other side. So that's the gift of God, the grace of God, which gives the vision to the aspirant. This is known as Paramabhakti, supreme devotion. That is the goal, that is both goal and experience. That is, a person is experiencing, and that's also is already in the goal of Paramabhakti. This happens to very mature aspirants. Now, so the essence is summary of what we said just now. Either the self returns from union because it cannot hold the absolute, because limited self-effort is there, or it returns as parts of God's eternal love play, pure devotion. The latter is Paramabhakti, Paramabhakti, not out of lack, but out of love. This is a summary of what we said just now. The three aspects of supreme devotion is Paramabhakti, that is Darshana, Parabhakti, Parajñāna, Paramabhakti. These three steps are explained in the philosophy of Rāmānujācārya. And my grandfather is actually summarizing a lot of his view and understanding of Ramanuja Bhashya here. Parabhakti, Parajñāna, Paramabhakti. It is given in the Sharanagati Gadya of Rāmānujācārya, who experienced, and Sharanagati Gadya is a direct conversation between Rāmānujācārya and Mahalakshmi and Mahavishnu. And such a conversation has never been, there is hardly any other such episodes where a person is talking directly to God and recording what he talked. So here, I'll simplify this in a words of Sanskrit. In Rahasya Tresara, Vedanta Deshika says, he defines what is darshana. Darshanam parabhakti syat, parajñānam tu sangamaha, punarvishlesha bhitistu, paramabhakti ruchyate. These three, parabhakti, parajñāna, paramabhakti, is explained by Vedanta Deshika in a simple shloka form. So, we will try to understand these three steps. Right? What are the three steps? Darshana is the vision of the God. Even through some schools of Vedanta see God as formless and impersonal, even though. That means some people see in Vedanta God as formless and impersonal. There is only all pervading Ātman and Brahman and everything like that, and all is just one. That is also a vision of some people, some Vedantans. A devotee perceives God in beautiful personal form. And even such a devotee has already attained Atma-Sakshatkara as per the Bhagavad Gītā. He has already attained self-realization, but he goes beyond and sees God as different and beautiful and personal. The vision of God, real, radiant and perceptible to the inner eye, is called Parabhakti, where the actual vision occurs. This is Darshanam Parabhakti Syat. This is beyond emotional, ordinary bhakti, going and lighting up candles or flames or deepa in a temple and doing archana of this one. Somebody may be very, very realized, and while doing all these things would be realizing God itself. There's possibility, but don't take it, no offense to the ordinary devotees. But the thing is, ordinary devotees are still in a preparatory level. It is not, supreme devotion is not about emotion or abstraction. It involves direct inner vision of divine. Even when others see only the formless absolute, the devotee sees God in form lovingly and personally. Okay? Now, what is Parajñāna, the second stage? First was Darshana, that is Parabhakti. Parajñāna is what? Absorption without annihilation. The person gets absorbed. The yogi becomes immersed in God's beauty, goodness, and infinite bliss. Satchit Ananda, that infinite bliss. The person has infinite love to God, intense love to God. The yogi merges with the divine, not by losing identity. The person doesn't go away, but through intimate enjoyment of God. And because the God is also playing with the devotee. And that is the divine Līlā of Lord himself. He still knows himself as a servant and an enjoyer, not the supreme. This happens only when people really experience something close to this. Then they will know, oh, this can happen. This is called Brahmatmaka Swatma Anusandhana, a spiritual practice where soul remembers, the Jīvātman remembers God as its own self. That is, Jīvātma's own self, the inner controller, is God. But Swatmanusandhana means, or the person is experiencing that person himself, that is self himself, being powered by Brahman from within. That is Parajñānam. Now, go further. Kaivalya is different. Kaivalya is separation from matter and becoming alone. So Kaivalya is like a dry, isolated self-existence. That's not that. But this Parajñāna is rich and fulfilling realization. It's not freedom from the world, but a joyful presence in God's love. It is both a process, ongoing devotion, and an experience, actual bliss and awareness of that Brahman. Interacting with the person. Lord Krishna described this knowledge as pratyakshaavagamam dharmyam susukham kartum avyayam. Pratyakshaavagamam dharmyam susukham kartum avyayam. That is in the 9th chapter, 2nd shloka. He says this Rajavidya, Rajaguhya is a divine royal knowledge, and that is directly a person perceives, experiences God. And it is fully in line with dharma. There is no adharma here. Final thought, what is Parajñāna? This is a state of consciousness where the Jīvātma lovingly joins with the Supreme while staying aware of its distinct identity is called Parajñānam, the highest and direct spiritual knowledge through union, Sangamaha, with God. This is Sangama, not merger of identical, becoming identical, but staying separate, experiencing the wonderful connect and direct union with the Lord. Okay. Now, we'll go further, a few more minutes. Paramabhakti is love that fears separation. So the God is infinite love. God expresses love in a playful and intimate way with his devotee. This divine love includes charm, flirtation, and affectionate closeness, like a lover's sweet play. This happens with Paramātman, and such experience was experienced by the Gopika Stris in the Rasa Līlā and other episodes of the Bhagavata. And only then so that is not a physical level love. It could be physical also in that time, but it is mainly with Jīvātma and Paramātma divine love. So devotee is loving anxiety. The yogi experiences this deep love, and a natural fear arises. How can a fear arise there? What if this closeness ends? Oh, I'm experiencing the perfect union with the Lord. What if it goes away? What if it goes away? The yogi becomes anxious to hold on to the divine experience forever. Not from fear, from intense love. This happened. And you can see the Alvar's quotations, Alvar's Pashanams, which expresses all these. And then this is just not Alvar's, even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has expressed. And many other, even Nayanmars and other people also have expressed in their own way. This highest form of devotion of Paramabhakti is marked by fear of separation from the Lord, born from overwhelming love. So in Sanskrit it says, Punar Vishlesha Bhitistu Paramabhakti Ruchyate. The fear of separation, again, that is called supreme devotion, Paramabhakti. Paramabhakti. Okay. For some reason, I'm used to the word Paramabhakti. That's how I have listened to those verses when I was young. Summary, Paramabhakti is when your love is so deep that even the thought of losing divine connection becomes unbearable. Okay. This happens. See, even do you remember the Taittiriya? Udaram antaram kurute athatasya bhajam bhavati. There is a Taittiriya verse. where even a second, if the person loses the vision of the Lord, atatasya bhayam bhavati, the person gets a huge fear. That is the intense Paramabhakti state which is expressed here. Understanding bhakti and jnana concepts in the Gita. So what I will do is I will leave now because it's 8:08. We've finished about an hour, and there's a lot of discussion of the how Bhagavad Gītā explains these concepts, which are very unique, the way Rāmānujācārya understands Bhagavad Gītā. And that is emphasized by Sampath Iyengar, who has studied this very well, and he wants to guide us from taking the actual knowledge of Bhagavad Gītā and yoga, and then understanding the Upanishad, Kena Upanishad, from that point of view. So we'll go later. So far, give me some feedback as to what happened today, and do you like it? And am I repeating, or any questions? What do you feel? Any feedback or questions?
Samadhi is something unique, Kṛṣṇa. Actually, I was thinking of how to understand this from the point of view of Dharmabhūta-jñāna. What happens to the Dharmabhūta-jñāna at that state? Is it only Swarupa-jñāna that will be awake during that time?
Good question. Let me think about it and get back to you, because I don't want to immediately give you. It's a food for thought. Okay, my understanding right now is Swarupa Jnana stays, because that's when a person can be self-aware. But Dharmabhūta-jñāna completely focuses on Paramātman only, and there is no. So in the vision of that perceiver, the knower, only one object exists, that is Paramātman only. There's nothing else. And intellect and mind has gone to a low level of activity, zero, almost zero level of activity. And then, but it still exists potentially. And
even the feeling that I am seeing, it will not be there.
Probably it is not there, but it has to be. It has to be inferred. Like how we wake up from sleep and say, while sleeping, I never felt that I am sleeping, I am sleeping, I am sleeping. I didn't feel that, right? So you infer it when you say sukham avapsam. That means I slept nicely, peacefully today. Only when you wake up, you can get back and analyze.
Even I consciousness will now it gets merged.
It gets merged. But the thing is, what it is, it's not a perfect merger. If it is a perfect merger, you cannot come back from that state.
That also happens.
I didn't hear you.
That also happens.
What happens?
So even that I merger also happens. He will not come back.
That also can. Oh yeah, yes. That is the final merger, right?
Yes, in the experience.
In the experience. See, the thing is, then that is a separate question of a subject for a separate discussion later.
No. Dharmabhūta-jñāna will it be there? For that, I thought it might be.
Oh, see, Dharmabhūta-jñāna is more like a tool, right? Dharmabhūta-jñāna is like a light or a luminosity, right? So what Vishishtadvaita theory says,
because when the I gets also merged, no awareness, that Dharmabhūta-jñāna will not be working. Whether it is there or not, nobody can tell. There is no one to tell.
See, the thing is, that's not the way this particular thing works here. This process right now, as to Parabhakti, Parajñāna, Paramabhakti, in all these three.
Everything it is merging, it is dissolving, merging one with the object. Yeah. That means even my awareness will not be there. I have knowledge that will not be there, as far as only he is there.
Yeah.
Bhagavan is there.
The thing is that one, okay, during the state of Samādhi.
After you awake, you get released step by step, then Dharmabhūta-jñāna starts operating for you. It happens. You feel.
See what my grandfather Sampatanga is saying is here is Dharmabhūta-jñāna is not completely destroyed there.
No,
It
no,
is
no, nothing
inoperative.
gets destroyed. Nothing gets destroyed. It is forgotten, completely
Exactly.
forgotten.
It's inoperative.
Or merged.
Inoperative. Yes.
Merged.
Correct. True. True.
If it is not there, he cannot come back also.
Correct. True. True. Yes. Agreed.
But one thing, this state of Samadhi, since it is completely related to consciousness, it cannot be like deep sleep, right? Because one
Merging.
is... Well,
See,
No, it is
okay,
beyond
see,
deep
the thing
sleep.
is, one
Beyond
thing I
deep
tell you, there are, see, again, Suresh Ji, the deep sleep concept
It is
has
beyond deep
different,
sleep.
yeah, it's not deep
It is
sleep.
self-awareness.
Definitely. It's not, because in deep sleep there is ajnana, so there is no self-awareness in deep sleep. Thing is there, in the Parabhakti, Parajñāna, Paramabhakti states, definitely there is self-awareness. But the self-awareness is kept at a minimum because the object of enjoyment, Paramatma, becomes the highest center focus of the experience.
Everything cannot be explained. It should be felt.
True.
You
True.
should feel.
And no language can explain it properly.
Because 1, 2, 3, 4, when you climb also, you should feel. You should feel that.
True.
Even feeling cannot be explained or reasoned out.
Not. So unfortunately, in terms of, otherwise, why did Shankaracharya come and write all these things? Why did Rāmānujācārya write all these things?
We can only say that I don't know, so I cannot express. That's the only thing, that helplessness is there in us.
What happens is then there is no philosophy there, that is mystic experience. That's a mystic experience. But if somebody has to put it in some philosophical terminology, they have to write books. Like Shankaracharya wrote so many books. Other acharyas also followed. So in the language of philosophy, one has to come back to language. And they have to come back from mystic experience and express something, right? That's where it is.
Whatever is told and explained is only a guide. And we have to travel in that, and then if you go to that penultimate,
there is no disagreement.
No, if you go to penultimate state, you also cannot explain.
See, Nāyamatma pravachanena labhyaha. By just analyzing somebody else's textbook and all those things, you cannot experience. Experience is separate. No question about it.
It is only to guide us to go in that way to experience. That is the final thing.
Any
Philosophy.
other questions? Any other questions? Because time is up. That's why I have to start working on something else today. Any questions? Any other questions? All right. Asmat Gurupyo Namaha, Asmat Paramagurupyo Namaha, Asmat Sarvagurupyo Namaha, Shri Kṛṣṇa Parabrahmane Namaha, Shri Lakshmi Sama Parabrahmane Namaha, Sarvam Shri Kṛṣṇa Arpanamastu. Sorry, I have to stop because I have to really rush to something else today. Hope this is useful. I'm going to leave the
Namaskaram.